Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a new um, Amazon Prime Video, basically Amazon streaming service. They have a documentary that's available to watch now if you're with your membership, if you have a membership with their streaming service, and is a documentary about film actor John Candy. It is a film called John Candy, I Like Me. It is a new documentary about his life, his work in film, his personal life, his struggles that he had towards the end of his life because he passed away in the early '90s. And I'll just say right off the bat, it is a very, very strong movie. It's a very emotional movie. I've been watching John Candy movies for almost my entire life now. My life started roughly around the time that his life was kind of near its end, unfortunately. So I kind of was one of those people where I was kind of catching up with all his work over the course of my life. And I really feel like this documentary is a good representation of everything that basically John Candy was and stood for. He clearly was a person that was making sure everybody was having a good time, that they were kind of involved with the comedy, that they were enjoying the comedy that he was doing himself. And it is one of those documentaries also where it really does show that he really tried to be with his family any chance he got. If he wasn't able to do a film project, he made sure, like Martin Short stood in for him for Three Amigos because he was offered a role in that one. He made sure that Chris Columbus and John Hughes were okay when Home Alone 2 was made because they offered him a role in that movie and he turned that down. And so there's certain aspects of his life that you'll learn over the course of this movie where either he just clearly wasn't available to go do something or he wanted to be with his family or whatever. And so this documentary really does show that he really was the kind of the jack of all trades of almost everything. And there's absolutely things about his life where he tried to make everything work the best he could, but obviously towards the end of his life when he was starting to have health problems, how much that hurt him and how he kind of the thing he was setting out to do wasn't achievable anymore. And so this documentary does a great job of all the stuff that he was trying to do and things that were going on in his life closer to kind of the end of his life. And so we do get a lot of time with his son and his daughter who are still alive, with his wife who is still alive. And so we really get to kind of learn the man and the legend behind John Candy over the course of this documentary. But like I said, first and foremost, guys, before I go into my positives and negatives, this is a wonderful documentary. It's very well done. Tom Hanks' son, Colin Hanks, directed this movie, did a very great job here. It sounds like he himself even has some John Candy experience and some stories about him based off of some times where Tom Hanks and John Candy would collaborate with each other. Because I think they collaborated on both Splash and Volunteers, if I'm not mistaken. So that was kind of Colin Hanks' chance to go visit his dad on the set and also get a chance to meet John Candy back when he was alive. But for my positives and negatives of this film, first and foremost, this film has several touching moments to it. So if you know John Candy at all, if you like any of his stuff, Home Alone or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or anything that he was involved in, there's really some very touching moments here I think that are really going to resonate with you. They did a great job making this documentary. They really kind of showcased every great film that he was involved with, and even on some of the smaller ones that he's not as proud of, or the ones that people don't quite remember him from, like 1941, for example, a Steven Spielberg movie. They still kind of go over kind of the good stuff that happened during the production of stuff like that. So I do like how they really kind of go over all the great stuff that happened, and specifically even when it was a film or a scene from a film that John Candy wasn't happy about doing, they still go over kind of the good stuff that happened that John Candy, if he was still alive, would probably look back on and have a positive opinion on. I also like how you really do learn about a lot about John Candy in the movie because, like I said, I've been following a lot of his stuff over the course of my being alive and watching movies and watching his films in particular. And like I had no idea he was born on Halloween. I had no idea that his father and his brother died at a very young age. Clearly, his family had a lot of health issues that unfortunately kind of came back to haunt him later in his life. I had no idea he was involved with a sports team and was signing autographs and then going back on a plane, going back on a film set, going back to sports, going back to family. And so there really was kind of a time in his life where he really was trying to clearly balance out everything. And I think that kind of hurt him in the end, unfortunately. So I do like how you really do kind of learn something about John Candy over the course of this documentary. It really is a very effective way to tribute the man and the legend. There's also some great interviews and movie clips that are featured here. So if there's any celebrities or any kind of movies that he was involved in, more than likely those films are going to get justice in some way over the course of the documentary. I thought all that was very effective here for the most part. And I also do like how the documentary does make the point that he truly was a great person. He truly was a person that was making sure you were having a good time, that you were laughing, that you felt good about yourself, that any positive, best traits that you had were showcased and known on the set of a movie or on the set of, or a sports team event or something like that. He truly was a great person that wanted to make sure that you yourself felt special, you yourself had a voice, was heard, had your moment in the spotlight. That it wasn't always just about him. There's always going to be a John Candy, but there's never going to be another you. Kind of a concept. So I do like how he truly felt like a great person that really made sure that you felt good about yourself. I also do like how the film does depict the dark side of Hollywood. Even some of the celebrities that are interviewed over the course of the film, like Conan O'Brien and a bunch of other ones, a lot of them admit that it is a thing where if you're a people pleaser, they really kind of go after you about that. They really do kind of squeeze you for everything that you're worth. If you're a people pleaser, if you're willing to kind of want to make everybody happy and everything like that, and it's just one of those businesses where if they let you do that, they're going to do it for as much as they can for all you're worth, and they're going to do it until there's almost going to be nothing left of you. And so I do like how the film does depict that there really is kind of a dark side to fame, and being a people pleaser sometimes isn't always a good thing to have when you're in a business like that. I also like a lot of the home video footage that the film depicts. There's a lot of times where we get to see John Candy at home, or John Candy out with at a family picnic with John Hughes and stuff like that. So that part really got to me because I'm a huge John Hughes fan as well. So I really liked all of the home video footage that the film featured of John Candy's home life, and that he really was a great person with a ton of great friends and family, and that he truly is a person that's going to be missed. But for my negatives of John Candy, I Like Me, I thought some of the parts of the movie were a little repetitive. It is one of those things where it would have been nice if, Catherine O'Hara gets to do this story about him, and Tom Hanks would get to do a story about this for John Candy, and Conan O'Brien would have a story about this with John Candy. And so there's one of those things where when you interview people that kind of have one and the same story, it does feel a little repetitive after a while. So I do kind of wish maybe in the editing room they really kind of narrowed it down to, this story does feel a little similar to this one, and that story feels a little similar to this one. So I do wish they kind of picked stories that had a little bit more variety to them, because after a while when you hear the third, fourth, and fifth story about, oh, well, John Candy was funny on the set, it just kind of feels like, okay, I feel like that's, the fifth person now that is saying that. And overall, for the most part, too, it felt like some of those stories felt a little too similar to each other. And maybe this was just an Amazon thing, but some of the audio clips and some of the video clips during some of these interviews did feel a little out of sync to me. It did feel like it was one of those things where the person's talking, but what they're saying doesn't match their lips. So I don't know if that's just an Amazon thing or my friend's streaming service or his TV or what it was, but if it was the fault of the movie, I kind of just want to throw it out there in case anybody else witnesses the same thing with this film. Some of these interview clips do feel a little out of sync with the actual video being shown. So just go into this film knowing that it could possibly just be an Amazon thing, but some of these audio clips do feel a little out of sync with each other. I also thought because Ryan Reynolds was involved as a producer of this movie, because he's Canadian himself, just like John Candy is, I would have liked to have seen an interview with him. I would have liked to have seen him get on camera, share stories about John Candy, share about his passion with John Candy, because that was kind of why he was involved as a producer with this movie. And you do kind of hear him kind of get more clarity with one of Bill Murray's interviews in one scene of the movie. But I would have personally liked to have seen at least one interview with Ryan Reynolds, or one story from Ryan Reynolds, or why John Candy meant so much to him. Because unfortunately, he's mostly just a producer in this movie. And like I said, besides that one comment he makes of Bill Murray in one interview, we really just kind of see Ryan Reynolds as a producer credit and not as an acting credit. And I really would have liked to have seen a story from him shared at one point during this film. But overall, guys, I'm going to give John Candy I Like Me a 8.5 out of 10. It's absolutely wonderful. Tons of great things about it. If you love John Candy, if you love comedy movies, I think you absolutely need to go track it down on Amazon Prime Video. Like I said, a couple of negatives here every once in a while, but for the most part, this is a very touching documentary that really got close to my heart, really made me feel emotional while watching it. And as a John Candy fan, it really made me very happy too. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyed the film. I highly recommend John Candy, I Like Me.